I didn't think it was possible, but the Golden Kamuy anime series is as equally funny as it is disturbing. The gold, the guts, and the glory return for another awesome episode of Golden Kamuy. An episode that's not going to be winning any awards for its animation anytime soon. The good news, this is a series which is backed up by a story that just absolutely sucks you in. It's one of those things where you see it and you just gotta keep on going. It's like a potato chip. You just can't have one. And that's what this entire series is all about. And this episode right here was very satisfying as we had a number of very exciting set pieces, tons of funny moments, a return of a really badass character, and the introduction of what could possibly be an even more badass character. So yeah, there's lots to love in this episode, so let's talk about the best parts. The first half of this episode picks up immediately from the end of the last one, where Sugimoto had just had the ever-living shit beat out of him by Tsurumi and his 7th Division. They tossed him into jail, and then suddenly Sugimoto tried to escape by beating up the twins. This was not a very good move, as all the other guards came in and just decided to raise all sorts of hell, but they realized that they can't have these twins guarding him anymore, which honestly is a bad decision because it eventually leads to Sugimoto escaping, but not on his own. In the last episode, we got to see that Asirpa and Shiraishi had decided to team up, and he decides that he's going to sneak into the jail using his dislocated shoulder in a combination of bear fat. Typically, he prefers soap, but Asirpa gives him some bear fat because, of course, she just happens to have it on her person. Don't try to argue it. We've seen her kill a couple of bears in this series. Still, the scene where Shiraishi comes through this window and surprises Sugimoto might be the best scene of the entire episode for how random and ridiculous it is. After having all of this blood, guts, and violence, you have this goofy image of this man who is just plopping out of a window, literally looking like a human piece of shit as he falls down and just delivers a simple line, which is, "I just decided to drop in." It's really funny because, one, it's just a funny image, but Sugimoto's reaction is that he thinks it's a ghost. I don't know if this show is just trying to be funny or not. I don't know. It's weird. It's such a strange combination. The only show that I can kind of equate it to is Full Metal Alchemist or Full Metal Alchemist Brotherhood, where it goes into some very dark territory, but it's not afraid to make you laugh with its anime antics. Sugimoto comes up with a brilliant plan where when the twins come back, one of them decides that he's going to try and kill him, but that doesn't work when suddenly he springs up with a bayonet in his hand and ends up just filleting this guy. And then Tsurumi and the other freaking squad comes down and they see that it looks like Sugimoto has been injured. He killed the other twin. The other one is super pissed off and wants to rip his head off, and it appears that Sugimoto's on his deathbed. He has a massive stomach wound and his guts are spilling out. So they decide that in order to get a little more information about the tattoos out of him, they're going to take him to the nearest hospital and try and get him stitched up. But in what might be one of the most disturbing plans possible, Sugimoto actually already gutted the other twin, ripped his guts out, and used those as a fake to trick them, and while he's being carried away to the hospital, he takes out these two guards and makes his grand escape, while still having these skewers stuck in his face, by the way. Tsurumi gives chase in another awesome scene where he gets on his horse, but it ends up getting killed by Asirpa with one of her poison arrows. And what I love about this scene is that he goes like full-on T-1000. Right here, like as soon as he gets knocked off the horse, he just like tumbles a little bit and then just starts running immediately after him. It's a really solid moment, but he knows when to give up. So while Sugimoto and Asirpa are escaping, Shiraishi has ensured that the entire place is going to burn down, and probably with some of the skins inside. It was basically a means to allow him to get inside and try and find something, but we actually find out that Tsurumi is actually wearing the skins like freaking Leatherface from the Texas Chainsaw Massacre. They're really trying to make this guy disturbing, and guess what? It works. One scene that I could talk about for days has got to be the celebration scene that Sugimoto, Asirpa, and Shiraishi have where they decide to have a meal, and they end up having this stew, which is made out of horse. Why are they eating a horse? Well, they escaped on this horse, and they don't want to be seen riding around with it, and Asirpa's wolf needs a meal to eat, so Shiraishi just decides to shoot it in the head, and it happens so bluntly, and it's done in like a weird cut that the next thing you see is just this horse on the ground with a freaking gunshot wound in its face. But it leads to some of the funniest imagery of the entire episode. One, when Asirpa's actually preparing the meat, her wolf Retar just cannot control himself, and Sugimoto still has wounds on the side of his face, So she decides to give him some horse meat, so that'll reduce the swelling, the old steak on the eye trick, basically. But I love how Retar just sort of slowly starts to inch up and look at him with these giant, big cartoon eyes, just entranced by this horse meat. It's, again, really funny imagery, but when they finally sit down to eat this meal, what's really great about it is that they included miso into it. And of course, we all know at this point that Asirpa has kind of an aversion to miso. She basically thinks it's just poop. And she finally tries it for the very first time, and she ends up loving it. But watching Sugimoto, like, be on the edge of his seat as she's about to eat this food and his goofy expressions is so funny. He just really wants her to love this food so much. And her expressions before she eats it, too, are just world-class hilarious. They make her look like this old Japanese woman. Like, her face just, like, scrunches in on itself. It really had me laughing out loud, not gonna lie. Episode ends with some teasing for some big events which are going to be coming. We go back to the samurai who goes by the name of Hijikata, and his group are preparing to bring more people into their fold so that not only can they find the gold, but also so that they can take over all of Hokkaido and take its independence back forcefully if necessary. And this Hijikata guy, he's going to be, I think, one of the coolest characters in the entire series. He's a samurai, but he also wields a gun like Arnold Schwarzenegger from Terminator 2. 2 Terminator references in one review. Who saw that coming? But there's a great scene where Hijikata and his gang go to see this famous warlord and all of his warriors to try and bring them into his group. And he just walks into this dude's place, throws the bodyguards' heads that they just decapitated right in front of him, and this big battle ensues where you get to see him just fighting against everyone, flipping his gun around, his sword and everything, and it looks great. It's not super well animated or anything, but it's just a great introduction to this really badass character. And it doesn't end there. It looks like they formally introduce another one of the Abashiri prisoners at the end of the episode. And they do this by bringing back that one soldier from, I believe, like, the second episode of the series. That one soldier who's desperately trying to hunt that wolf. He's actually teamed up with this guy who apparently is going to be one of the former prisoners. I only say that because he's got an incredibly distinctive appearance, especially with his very weird, blocky-looking hair. But what I especially love about this guy is that he's renowned for killing bears. And for a series that's filled with CG bears, you can tell that this guy's like a kid in a candy store. I can't wait to see where all of this is going to be heading with all of these different stories just going in multiple directions. But safe to say, Sugimoto's got a lot of competition when it comes to finding this gold. So what's the rundown on this episode of Golden Kamuy? This is an episode that was saved by its story. The actual animation itself, there's just really nothing all that special here, and it seems to be kind of all over the place in terms of how good the actual episode looks. There are some scenes that I think look really competent, but then there are some that just really rub me the wrong way, and I can't put my finger on it. A lot of it is mostly in the details. They're just things that seem like they should put more detail into, especially like little things like Sugimoto's face, like when they finally escape and everything. It looks like he just has a couple of scratches on his cheeks. He just had multiple skewers like going through them for like hours. Like there should be like way more blood or some damage on his face a little bit, but no, it just looks like he basically just fell and scraped himself. Nothing all that crazy. But that's just like a minor nitpick, really. I mean, this is an anime. It is a visual medium, and it should have good animation. And there are scenes that look good, but it seems kind of just like a mixed bag, to be perfectly honest. But luckily, it is completely saved by its story and its atmosphere. Especially now that we have all of these different groups which are going to be going after the gold. And I can't wait to see what we're going to see in terms of the development of Sugimoto, how we're going to get into his past a little bit more, and how that's going to help his journey. I hope Shiraishi is going to be a permanent member of the team. He adds a lot of levity to the group, and honestly, all three of them, they really make a very fun pair. I'm also interested to see if all these different factions are going to be running into one another, like Sarumi's group running into Hijikata. Are these two characters actually going to work together? Are they going to be opposing forces? Just, there's so many little factors that are falling into place in this story that I think it's really starting to get interesting. If anything, like the episode here and the ones previous to it were all just sort of a setup for the beginning of the true story. And really, I'm pumped to see how it's all going to play out. Bad, or not bad, really, just okay animation and artwork at best. This is still pretty good. If anything, it's got me interested in the Golden Kamuy manga series. I really need to check that out, because everybody's telling me that it's way more hardcore and violent, and of course the artwork is probably better. This might be the type of series that only works better as a manga, but seeing how I'm seeing it for the very first time, I'm just taking it for what it is. But I am going to finish out the season, and then after that I think I'll check out the manga just to see where it's going, because as it is, I'm really enjoying the story. It's absolutely wild, and it's getting crazier with every episode, and it's just manly and hardcore. I really do like it. And I'm still loving to see more of the developing relationship between Asirpa and Sugimoto, how they're both influencing each other with their specific cultures, and how respectful it's actually being about it. And the fact that this show is just really hardcore, but really funny as well. Seriously, like, this episode was hilarious, but it was just as funny as it was action-packed. So yeah, this was a solid addition to the Golden Kamuy anime series. I didn't like some of the animation and artwork choices, but for the most part, this is what it is. I'm giving it a 4 out of 5. I'd love to hear your thoughts about it. Tell me all of them in the comment section below, and what you hope to see from the rest of Golden Kamuy. Thank you guys for watching this review. I'll see you guys next time, and as always, stay down, baby.